Hello, hello, hello. I am Pegasus, Marcus Pegasus here with Nevada Desert Experience, and we are live with a couple other people. We're going to be programming for the next 2 hours. That'll include Mary Leah Kelly. Are you there, Mary Leah?
I am there. Hi, everybody.
And Vera's going to do some music later. Are you there, Vera?
Hi.
Awesome. So Mary Leah's going to speak for a little while, and that'll be right after we have some welcomes. We have a technician here named Reverend Chelsea, who I think is going to screen share any second now. And that will be welcomes. Here it comes. Welcomes from people from around the world. It's a 13-minute piece, and then we'll have Mary Leah on, and then Vera after that.
Greetings from Ann Simmons Booker at Canticle Farm in Oakland, California, ancestral land of the Huichin village of the Chochenyo Ohlone people. And I'm honored to thank you and welcome you on this pilgrimage with your service and witness for nonviolence, for nuclear disarmament, for an end to drone warfare and an end to all warfare, and that we may instead turn our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks and direct our resources toward those who are living on the margins, the immigrant, those who are hungry, those who are persecuted. And I'm deeply honored to be able to welcome you, your families, genetic and otherwise, those dear to us who have died, our ancestors and the future ones, the ancestors who lived in this land, in this place where you are now, the Paiute Nation, the Shoshone Nation. We honor them through this work that you are undertaking. May your time together be abundantly blessed, and may your work bear deep and lasting fruit.
Good day, I'm Mark. I'm on the board of Nevada Desert Experience. I was at the first one, and I can't be at this one, but I am with you virtually. We want to really celebrate nonviolence. We want to celebrate peace. We know that there's corruption in Washington, D.C., and we know that taking part in this is our way of standing up and having action. So we're either there in person at the Nevada test site or virtually. God bless you.
Hi, I'm Laura Marie, and this is my new zine, Resisting Capitalism for Fun #4. I want to read from an essay called Why I Believe in Nonviolence and Community. And this is for the Nevada Desert Experience Sacred Peace Walk Art Project. It's not possible to stockpile enough weapons to be safe. Even if you believe they create safety, someone else will always have more than you do. I would rather step outside the mentality of putting holes in people and try connecting. I won't participate in an arms race, and I don't want to shoot anybody. I'd prefer everyone to have a place at the table of humanity, nourished and cared for. Isolation confuses us and hurts our health. Some people are so harmful, maybe society does need to be protected from them, but the vast majority of people can be welcomed.
Hi, I'm Susie Snyder. I work on a project called Don't Bank on the Bomb. And we're using the new treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons, the ban treaty, to get banks and pension funds to divest from companies that make the key components for nuclear weapons. The ban treaty makes it illegal to provide any assistance in keeping nuclear arsenals. We would not have made nuclear weapons illegal without the continued efforts of people like you. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you do to end the nuclear age and bring peace on this planet. Thank you.
My name is Toshiharu Kano. I was born 6 months after the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. I was born March 1st, 1946. and we were only 800 meters from the hypocenter. And I was 12 weeks along inside of my mother. And I'm very fortunate to be talking with you today. And I have suffered so much illness when I was born. I lost complete ability to fight disease when I was born, 6 months after the bomb. And I had tuberculosis. I lost 20% of my left lungs. I had pneumatic fever. I had kidney failure. I passed kidney stone at age 6. And I tell you, that was very, very painful. And I had mumps 7 times. I could never get immune to the disease. And I was off almost 1/3 of the school year, every year till I was 15 years old. So I fell so far behind in the schoolwork, and I lost the ability to study, because it was no use trying to catch up with my classmates. And I fell so far behind, and I felt helpless and hopeless. And we came here to United States in 1961 because my parents were born in Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii, in 1914, and they regained the American citizenship in 1961. So we came back to United States, and we came to Salt Lake City, Utah, and we never left. And I love it here. But I just wanted to talk to you because my wife and I wrote the book about our experience. And this is our book, A Passport to Hiroshima, and talks about what I have gone through and our family gone through. So it's a one-of-a-kind story. Every time I wake up in the morning, I have to pinch myself to make sure I'm here, because that's the kind of fear that all the hibakusha are living with. You never know when you're going to be gone with a cancer or some peculiar blood disease that all the hibakushas are facing. And I have a message for all of the great leaders of the world, and I want to tell them that we cannot repeat Nagasaki and Hiroshima ever again, because I don't want anybody to go through what we have gone through to survive. Today, there's 130,000 survivors are still alive. Average life for those survivors are 83 years old, and they are dying very quickly. And so I need to send this message out to the world that we never repeat the Nagasaki and Hiroshima ever again. I'd like to commend you for your activism to trying to eliminate all of the nuclear weapons from this earth, because it's a hideous weapons that we ever created. And the only way that you ever know what this weapon will do is like myself, that have experienced and survived. So I really love to commend your effort for abolishing the nuclear weapon from this world. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Starhawk. I bring you greetings from the Redwoods. I'm a lifelong activist. Been working on issues around peace and nuclear issues since the early 80s, the days of Diablo Canyon. I want to send greetings to those who are doing the peace walk and blessings, and just to say, now more than ever, we need peace. I'm so grateful for those who are working for peace. Blessings on all of you.
Why
I'm really grateful for the folks that have been able to join us for this video for the virtual part of the Nevada Desert Experience Sacred Peace Walk Code Green. And thank you, Reverend Chelsea, for being able to play that video clip. It's a good segue because that clip, I think, was used by Mary Leah Kelly. I don't know if you can see me right now. Right now I see Chelsea. Let's see. Again, this is Marcus Pegasus. I'm here with Nevada Desert Experience Sacred Peace Walk Code Green. We're getting ready for the Peace Walk that begins tomorrow. And there's some of us right here. Hi, Reverend Chelsea. Hi, Mary Leah.
Hello.
Vera will be back. Hello, Vera will be back later to do some music. And Mary Leah is about to begin on by Carla Sola, and Zara Anwar was great because I think you saw that before, Mary Leah, at the event you guys did, right? The virtual event for the 60th anniversary, 75th anniversary of the nuclear bombs.
Two things. First, just a technicality, which was no, that dance wasn't part of that particular event, but it is an integral part of the Good Friday event every year at Livermore Lab, which was also virtual this year. So
and then she'll be back later. We're going to have her virtually appearing again. She's in Berkeley, and I'm in Nevada right now with this broadcast. And I want to give Mary Leah the time that we offered. Sorry, we're a little late, everybody. But and I'm also sorry, Mary Leah, that I just cut you off. If you had more to say about Carla de Sola or anything, or go ahead. The stage is yours, Mary Leah Kelly of Tri-Valley Cares.
Yes, hi. I'm so glad to be with you, albeit virtually. And what I was going to say, Marcus, was simply that Tri-Valley Cares, like Nevada Desert Experience and many groups across and around the country and the world, we too have been keeping rallies going safely during the pandemic, in part by using virtual technologies. So I'm going to divide my time up by just saying a few words about myself and about Tri-Valley Cares to give you some context. And then I've been asked to speak about the nuclear weapons complex and the nuclear weapons budget And I'm going to wrap by actually drawing back out of a US-centric focus to talk about the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons and some very exciting things that are going on internationally right now. As I understand it, there's not an opportunity for questions, but even so, Marcus, if you could give me a sort of a little heads up when you want me to wrap, that would be great, because there's always more to speak about than there is time.
I'll go ahead and be the timekeeper, and I'll send you a message on the Zoom chat when we're wrapping up. Thank you again, Mary Leah, for being here with us. I really appreciate it.
Certainly. So just by way of background, as said, I'm Mary Leah Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of Tri-Valley Cares, which stands for Communities Against a Radioactive Environment here in Livermore, California, broadcasting to you from my home office right now. Tri-Valley Cares was founded in 1983. It was founded by local residents here in Livermore. At that time, there were beginning to be some major rallies and nonviolent direct actions at Livermore Lab. You heard Starhawk say that she's been active since the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant days. And it actually started with a group of those folks saying, we're driving down to protest the nuclear power plant. There's a nuclear weapons laboratory right in our backyard. Let's also focus on that. And at the time, I was a journalist, and I went out and met some of the folks at a peace camp, went to some actions. And when I got a phone call from a fellow Livermore resident saying, do you want to meet and see if we want to form a local group? I said yes, a very fateful decision back in 1983. And as a local group, Tri-Valley Cares took upon itself to educate itself and the community about what's going on at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And over the years, while maintaining that focus, we've done more and more national and even international work pertaining to nuclear policy, nuclear weapons operational issues, and nuclear disarmament. And our founding document as Tri-Valley Cares really explicitly links peace, justice, and the environment. We've always seen those things as inextricably linked at their root, and one place they come together is at Livermore Lab. And so just to say a few words, every single nuclear weapon in the United States stockpile is designed either here in Livermore, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area at Livermore Lab, or just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico at the Los Alamos Laboratory. And in some ways, you can look at the two nuclear weapons design labs as the brains of the nuclear weapons complex. And then the laboratory that does the engineering work to marry, that's their word, marry the warheads that Livermore and Los Alamos designed to their delivery systems. That's Sandia Laboratory. There's one in New Mexico, and there's one here in California right across the street from the Livermore lab. And if that's true, the heart of nuclear weapons development has always been the Nevada test site, if you want to use a sort of a human, and its limbs has been the vast production complex. And I'm gonna talk, because time is limited, a little bit more about the nuclear weapons budget and some particular key issues for us as peace, justice, and environmental advocates right now in 2020. And I will say in my early days, my background is in journalism, and my early days, one of the things I took to heart was the idea, if you want to know what's going on, follow the money. And, you know, listen to what they say, but take it with a grain of salt and follow the money. That tells you what's really going on. So with that in mind, I'm going to tell you what's really going on with US nuclear weapons development right now. In case there's anybody brand new to this, the Defense Department makes delivery systems, missiles, airplanes, subs, but it's the Department of Energy, National Nuclear Security Administration that makes the warheads and bombs. Anything that has a W in its name, that's a warhead. Anything that has a B in its name, it's dropped and it's a bomb. So the budget for fiscal 2021, which has been requested, we're in a continuing resolution, but this is what they're essentially getting, is overall for the National Nuclear Security Administration, 20% higher than just last year. So we went back and looked at what it was when Trump took office. It's now 50% higher than when Trump took office. So imagine what's being done with that money and then see if it matches what I tell you. So within the National Nuclear Security Administration, the biggest increase is in a budget line called Nuclear Weapons Activities. And that's actually gone up 25% since last year. And so they want, and they're getting 15.6 billion essentially. Again, continuing resolution makes small changes to that. And that's 25% higher than last year. And in the short term, they have to stick to last year in a continuing resolution. So that's not necessarily so bad, but to just understand how things are going up. So I'm going to talk about three things in particular. I'm going to talk about plutonium pits or plutonium bomb cores. And right now, the National Nuclear Security Administration, which I'm just going to call NNSA, is ramping up production of plutonium bomb cores. They're expanding it. Previously, they had been authorized to make up to 20 plutonium pits a year at the Los Alamos lab in New Mexico. But in fact, the most they've ever done in New Mexico is 11 in 1 year. And many, many, many years, it was 0, which kind of tells you how many plutonium bomb cores we need for an existing stockpile. And the money approved for that in 2019 was 361 million. And the money asked for it for next year, just to give you for comparison, is $1.4 billion. So that gives you some idea of what it's slated to go up to from 2019. Another thing that's happening, and I'm going to come back and talk a little more about these operations if I have time. But another thing that's happening in the budget is uranium secondaries. In the vernacular, you could say what puts the H in hydrogen bomb. This is the uranium processing facility at Oak Ridge. And in 2019, it was $87 million. In 2021, the request is $234 million. And then to say a few words about the Nevada test site. Right now, they're expanding capabilities for subcritical experiments, and I'm going to come back and talk a little about these at what's called the U1A facility at the, well, they say the Nevada Nuclear Security Site, but we all still call it the test site. And in 2019, there was 50 million for that. in 2021, they've requested more than 215 million for that. So you can kind of see, I gave you a 2-year gap so you can kind of really see what these increases are. And I also want to give you some numbers, and you don't have to memorize them, but again, look at the trajectory about some of the new nuclear weapons. Right now, the B61 modification 12 or B61-12, that's the one that is, some are deployed in the US and some are deployed in NATO countries. In 2019, it was already ramping up, and it was 794 million, but actually now it's 815 and change requested for 2021. There's an alteration of the W-88 submarine launched warhead, and that's getting more than 200 million. But the really big ones are 2 new nuclear weapons that are being designed right now as I speak at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory here in Livermore. One of them is called the W-80-4. In 2019, that got just over $600 million for that year for the development. For 2021, it's getting more than $1 billion is what the request is. And then there's this W-87-1. This is a new warhead that they plan to put on a new intercontinental ballistic missile. It'll be land-based. In 2019, we got 53 million to restart that development effort, and requested for 2021 is $541 million. And these weapons, I'm giving you a year at a time so that you can see the trajectory of their increases, but they're billions of dollars per warhead over the years. And just to say a little bit more about some of these programs now. So what are they? We know how much they cost. We know this is a theft from those who need. This is a theft from healthcare. This is a theft from meeting human needs. But what is it? So I'm going to just go back and say a little bit more about each one of these. So plutonium pit operations, as you probably know, the plutonium pit, that it's called a pit because it sits inside the weapon like a plutonium pit sits, I'm sorry, like a peach pit sits inside a peach. And I already told you that Los Alamos was allowed to make up to 20 a year in the past, and that the most they ever made was 11, and most of the time they made 0. So the plan now is to make 80 or more plutonium bomb cores every year. So they're planning to make 30 or more at the Los Alamos lab in New Mexico. So you can see a huge increase there. And they're planning to make 50 or more every year at the Savannah River site in South Carolina. One of the things that's notable about this is that the Savannah River site has never done plutonium pit work. They've never made pits. It's kind of like, what could go wrong? They have this on a fast track. The NNSA has said it's their highest priority project, and they think they're going to start moving these pits off of the assembly line in 2030. There have been independent assessments, including by the Institute for Defense Analyses, that have pointed out that this has never successfully happened within the Department of Energy and its National Nuclear Security Administration, that these big ticket items have never, ever, 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 ever been built and operated within this time frame. And they basically said, don't expect it. And their analysis, their customer, if you will, was the Defense Department that wanted to know, when are we going to get pits from the NNSA? And their recommendation was, you better find an off-ramp. So But there are a lot of dangers in this besides it's eating up money. This kind of rush can risk workers, it can risk the environment in case of accidents. It can add fuel to the fire of a new global arms race. And I'm going to say why in a second. One of the reasons why, the main reason why, is because these new pits are for new nuclear warheads. And that W87-1 that I mentioned that Livermore Lab is designing will be the first wholly new warhead in the stockpile since the end of the Cold War. It will be the first wholly new warhead that they're going to try to certify without underground explosive nuclear testing in Nevada. I talked to a lot of weapons guys at Livermore Lab, and I talked to a lot of other experts and people as well, and read all of the arcane documents. And what I can tell you is this W87-1 warhead is being designed with a whole lot of technologies for which, and this is a little technical, but they have what are called technology readiness levels and manufacturing readiness levels. And you should be high up, like around 9, and they're down around 2 for some of these. And they think they're going to have this warhead coming off of the assembly line by 2030. And one of the new technologies, very significantly, are changes to the plutonium pit. This new warhead being designed by Livermore will have a plutonium pit that is similar to a different design, but significantly different from it. It is unlike anything that's in the stockpile right now. It's unlike anything in storage right now. It's going to have some intrinsic technology embedded into the warhead according to the way that they're now intending to design it that will make a change, and they plan to put this into a warhead that has other new technologies as well, they think, and be able to certify it without nuclear testing. I have been told by weapons designers that there are significant certification challenges, both because of the pit that's never been tested full scale, because you can't, and because of the integration of that change along with other changes. And the fear is, the concern is, and please take this seriously, that down the road, as they're certifying it, as they're producing it, as they're putting it into the stockpile, that there are problems that will emerge that will push the United States, or at least increase pressure, to resume nuclear testing in Nevada. That is not off the table. Some of you may know that the Trump administration discussed nuclear testing in Nevada at very high levels, even absent the pressures that this new warhead is going to add. And I guess I will just summarize by saying your continuing witness, your continuing faithfulness, your continuing scrutiny of the Nevada test site is as needed now as when we used to all go there to stop nuclear testing, because it's not over in terms of the danger of resumption. In terms of, so why don't I just shift to talking about expanded capabilities for subcritical experiments at the Nevada test site. That was the $215 million budget item. So according to the budget documents, they are planning to increase the number of subcritical nuclear tests in Nevada, as well as the sophistication and the diagnostics for those tests. For those who don't know what a subcritical nuclear test is, These are done underground at the test site in these underground rooms that are dug out. The facility is called U1A, but I remember it from when it was called Liner, L-Y-N-E-R. And guess what LY stood for? Low yield. That's where they did the low yield test blasts. So the idea in a subcritical test is that you have a very small amount of weapons grade plutonium, and the way you configure the plutonium will not induce a nuclear yield test. But they're walking, as far as I can tell, up to the bloody edge. And there's a danger of them going over that edge. And what they call it, if they go over it, and what some weapons guys are asking for, they call them supercritical nuclear tests as opposed to subcritical nuclear tests. That sounds pretty cute, except for it's a nuclear test with a nuclear yield. Try telling any other country it was just a supercritical nuclear test. A nuclear test is a nuclear test is a nuclear test. It will drive other nuclear weapon states to their test sites if the United States ever goes over that line. So just watch out for that term, watch out for discussion of resumption of nuclear testing, and really look at the budget documents and anything else that will give you a better idea of what's going on. Right now, a lot of that money is to develop some new diagnostic equipment. And these subcritical nuclear tests are absolutely part of nuclear weapons development. The budget document even says that the increase in nuclear weapons subcritical tests are for Livermore Labs W87-1, the wholly new warhead I just talked about, and it's W80-4, which is a new warhead to go on a new air-launched cruise missile, which is basically a first strike weapon. And I'm afraid, if I'm kind of rushing because I'm afraid I'm going to run out of time here.
We'll have about 8 minutes left.
Okay.
Short.
So just for, I also want to mention uranium secondary operations, because I told you that they changed plutonium pit levels to say, okay, now we're going to make 80 or more a year. So they changed the uranium secondary operations and are building a new facility at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee to, guess what? Make 80 or more secondaries per year. And again, it's not an accident that the number of new primaries or plutonium pits and the number of new secondaries is both 80 or more, because these are both to go into new and modified nuclear warheads. So I want to do one thing before I end. I mean, there's a million more things I could talk about, but one thing I want to do before is draw back a little bit from some of what I hope is alarming news about what's going on in the United States and why it requires our attention, why it requires our action to cause positive social and political change, but to say something positive about what's going on in the world in terms of having a not totally US-centric view. So in 2017, I was honored to be able to go to the United Nations and lobby countries as they were negotiating a new treaty, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. This builds on the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but takes away any ambiguity, and its prohibitions are quite clear. It prohibits the development, the testing, the production of nuclear weapons. It prohibits the states that sign and ratify from having nuclear weapons on their territory, think NATO countries, from funding anybody to make nuclear weapons or do any of the prohibited activities, and from letting nuclear weapons knowingly cross their territory. You heard Susie talk about the money part of it, that the treaty prohibits funding for nuclear weapons. And it also has positive provisions that talk about reparation for downwinders. And it's one of the most forward-looking treaties. If you're interested, definitely go to the UN site, go to the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons site and take a look at it. The exciting thing I want to tell you is the way the treaty was written, it enters into force, which means it becomes international law when it gets 50 ratifications. And right now it has more than enough signatories to the treaty. Malaysia just ratified and was the 46th. That's 4 more is all it takes for the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons to enter into force. It's expected very soon. There's an opportunity to celebrate and hang banners and the like, alert the media on the 50th ratification. And then the way the treaty is written, it formally enters into force 90 days from the date that the 50th state deposits its instruments of ratification. Really quickly, Marcus can be your point of contact for this, but Tri-Valley Cares and other groups in the Alliance for Nuclear Accountability are doing banner art, and I'd be happy to share it as a PDF if you guys want to make a banner to take it out to the test site and hang it, either when the 50th ratification comes or when it enters into force, or both. And with that, I also want to tell you the Tri-Valley Cares website, which is www.trivalleycares.org, and you can find things I've been talking about, including the treaty and many other things on our website. So in closing, thank you for being there. Thank you for carrying on and for your faithful witness. And together, we will delegitimize nuclear weapons. We will change both the local and the international culture, and we will move our country and the world to the global abolition of nuclear weapons, which involves so many of these interconnected peace and justice issues that we work on every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Leah. Hopefully you can hear me. This is Marcus.
Yes. Hi, Bruce.
Oh, and Bruce is with us too. Say hello, Bruce. Oh, I guess his mic's off, but Bruce is going to come on in about 10 minutes, I think. But you can still say hello, I think, if the computer's working right. Maybe not.
And Vera's back. Hi again, Vera.
Hi.
Hello to everyone.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi.
So Vera's gonna do a couple songs, and then hopefully after Bruce, if Vera has time again, she could do a couple more songs. But thank you everybody for tuning in to the Sacred Peace Walk Code Green. I'm here in Nevada, as is Vera for Love. Mary Leah is in California. Bruce is in Maine, right, Bruce? Yep. And everybody around the planet is welcome to tune in. We're also archiving this so people can check it out later. Our peace walkers are actually in a place where they can't get Wi-Fi signal, so that's a blessed special spot, but we're going to bring little videos, devices out there later, camera, what do you call them? Telephones, telephones and screens, so that they can see a little bit of what happened, because it's impossible right now where they are physically on the planet, which I love the fact that that still exists, even though there is a lot of smoke. Thank you, Mary Leah, for speaking for so long. I know, because you've been covered with smoke in California for so many weeks now.
Thank you.
Anyway, so the Sacred Peace Walk has been going on for about 24 years, since 1995 consecutively. And this year is the first time we're going online live to make a live component of it because of the pandemic. And we'll hear more about the Sacred Peace Walk and its Code Green status this year after Bruce is done. But first, let's hear it from Vera, if you're there. Ready?
Thank you so much, Pegasus. My name is Vera for Love, and this is my 6th Sacred Peace Walk. And I met Marcus Pegasus on my first Sacred Peace Walk, and he ended up taking me to Trinity in New Mexico, and I saw where they tested nuclear weapons there, you know, before hitting Hiroshima. And then we went up to Livermore too, and it just really blew my mind to know what was going on in my own home. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, where we have Creech Air Force Base, where they operate drones and drop bombs on individuals around the world, whether they're terrorists, they're human, and also the nuclear testing site, but that you don't really hear much about at all, that these things are happening. And I just, I started writing, I call it peace music, when I got introduced to the Sacred Peace Walk community. And I just think it's really important to remind anyone that it's not normal to use bombs on human beings. It's just not a normal. It's not normal. It seems normal. It's not normal. And it's good that we get past this. And a good way to do that is loving ourselves. So I'm going to share a couple of my original songs with you all. And this is actually one that I wrote at Trinity when I went there with Marcus. Okay, here we go. Your heart wants to be free again. Your heart longs for peace. Your heart wants to dance. Lift your hands to the sky and remember who you are. You are love. You are love. What the world needs now is hope, peace, and love. What the world needs now is hope, peace, and love. 'Cause your heart wants to be free again. Your heart longs for peace. Your heart wants to dance. Lift your hands to the sky and remember who you are. You are love. You are love. What the world needs now is hope, peace, and love. What the world needs now is hope, peace, and love. 'Cause your heart wants to be free again. Your heart longs for peace. Your heart wants to dance. Lift your hands to the sky and remember who you are. You are love. You are love. No more fighting, no more dying. It'll only bring us down. Your heart wants to be free again. Your heart longs for peace. Your heart wants to dance. Lift your hands to the sky and remember who you are. You are love. You are love. All right, that was You Are Love. Yeah, like I said, if we remember and try loving ourselves more, we'll probably try not to hurt other people.
Amen.
So I have another song. This song is called Citizens of the World.
Hi.
Yeah, and I actually wrote this when I was at protesting at Creech Air Force Base with Code Pink. They're actually just up there doing some vigils this past week before the peace walk. And yeah, so this is Citizens of the World. Hold on, we're going far. Hold on, 'cause change will come. Listen to your heart. The time is now to take a stand. We're fighting wars, but we can't feed the poor around the world. Children dying every morning and night. This is not my war. So what are we fighting for? I fight for peace in the Middle East. I fight for love all over the earth. Every single corner. Take away those borders, 'cause we're citizens of the world. We're citizens of the world. We're citizens of the world. And two wrongs won't make it right. Bombs drop down and the people can't fight back. War in the poorest of lands, but they've got oil and there's money to be had. I fight for hope that one day all the people come together. Put down those guns and ground those drums. I fight for peace in the Middle East. I fight for love all over the earth. Every single corner. Take away those borders, 'cause we're citizens of the world. We're citizens of the world. We're citizens of the world. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to walking with all the peace walkers this week, and I'm so grateful for Nevada Desert Experience for continuing to have this event to get together and, you know, remember the beauty of life and how it's not normal to use bombs or guns on human beings. So peace, y'all.
We also just got a message that some of the folks out at the base camp have been able to walk away from their base camp to a parking lot where they're getting the signal. So they might have just heard that live from you, Vera. And up next we have Bruce Gagnon, and then hopefully Vera will be back, Vera for Love, after that to do a couple more songs. Bruce, are you there, Bruce?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you just fine. Again, I'm Marcus Pegasus with Nevada Desert Experience, and we're doing this, our very first time, we're doing a live netcast, live broadcast of portions of our Sacred Peace Walk, which goes on all week and would be not very good programming if people had to watch 24 hours a day video for these from today through Friday. So we're just doing selected portions, including Bruce Gagnon. We heard from Mary Leah Kelly earlier, and Vera for Love will be on this virtual live thing for the rest of the planet, as well as with us in Nevada. But go ahead, Bruce, introduce yourself. We're so glad you're here. I'm very grateful that you're here. I haven't seen you in a few years, and I think I met you back in the 90s. So if you could tell a little bit about the global network, of course, the history of that, in addition to everything else that we need to hear from you, because Bruce, everybody in the audience, if you haven't heard from Bruce yet, stay tuned. He is awesome, and he's got some of the most important news for anybody of conscience on this planet, including people from our empire in the United States. Go ahead, Bruce.
First, tell me how long I have to
Sure.
talk.
Yeah.
So I have an idea.
Yeah, sure. Is 35 minutes okay?
That's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's good to see you. We do go back a long way to wandering around New Mexico together. And I last saw you, I believe, at the Pacific, what is it called? The Catholic or
Pacific Life Community. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
West
I
Coast.
saw you there, yep, and in California last time I saw you. So anyway, great to see you again. I work for the Global Network Against Weapons and Nuclear Power in Space. It was founded in 1992 to prevent the nuclearization and weaponization of space. Before that, I worked for the Florida Coalition for Peace and Justice for 15 years. In all those years working on space issues, taking people to the Space Center at Cape Canaveral and Kennedy Space Center in Florida, protesting against various military launches. So I've been working on space issues really since 1982. I guess maybe I should tell a story to illustrate how I got started in it. It was June 12th, 1982. Very famous day in the disarmament movement. There was a protest in New York City around the special session on disarmament at the UN. Almost 1 million people turned out. I was at home in Orlando, Florida at the time, watching it on C-SPAN. They showed the march, they showed the speakers. And then after it was over, they cut away to a right-wing conference where the speaker was Lieutenant General Daniel Graham, Ronald Reagan's head of SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, or Star Wars. And during the Q&A after his speech, someone said, General Graham, aren't you worried about that protest in New York today? They say there's almost 1 million people there. And he said, no, really not. He said, because they don't have a clue. They're protesting against nuclear weapons, and we're moving into space. So let them keep doing what they're doing. And it was in that moment that it really became clear to me, especially because I only lived at that time an hour away from Cape Canaveral, that I needed to find out what was going on with this space program. And so I began studying it, and again, taking people over to the Space Center repeatedly to protest military launches, NASA launches of plutonium, and other such things. So we've been at it now for a long time. The Global Network, again, was created in 1992. We traveled the world. We went to various places where the United States has established what are called downlink stations. As satellites orbit the Earth, they beam their signals to the Earth below. And so the US has set up these downlink stations that transmit signals from the satellites to other satellites, beam them back to the Earth in real time, split-second time. And in these communities where these downlink stations are located, there are local peace people who don't want their country to be used as a military Star Wars base, a relay station, or whatever it's used for. So that became the membership of the global network. So these bases are located in England, in Norway, in Okinawa, and Japan, and Korea, Guam, all over the world. The United States has established these downlink stations that help coordinate this whole space warfare program. The Pentagon has long been saying whoever controls space will control the Earth, because space technology coordinates and directs all warfare today. So no matter whether you're a troop on the ground, in a tank, whether you're on a ship in the ocean, or flying in an airplane, or a drone is being piloted from Creech, wherever you are, everything that the Pentagon does today is essentially coordinated by space technology. And so the Pentagon has been saying for many, many years that the United States must control and dominate space and deny other countries access to space, so that we, the US, can be the master of space. Well, that's quite provocative. It's quite dangerous. It's quite insane. And it's very, very expensive when you think about it. In fact, the Aerospace Corporation has long bragged that the arms race in space will be the largest industrial project in the history of the planet Earth, necessitating so much money that they said in an editorial in Space News magazine some years ago that we've got to come up with a dedicated funding source to pay for this. And they said we have. And we're now sending our lobbyists to Washington to secure this dedicated funding source. And they called it the entitlement programs, that officially are Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and what's left of the social safety net that is in tatters today. These are the programs that the aerospace industry has targeted in order to promote their Star Wars program. And so we tell people that if you want to help stop Star Wars, if you want to help stop this newly created Space Force that is institutionalizing this warfare program for space even more, then fight for social progress, fight for environmental cleanup, and make the connections. Talk about how space technology is being used to direct and coordinate all the wars today, and that they want to rob the Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and other social environmental programs in order to pay for it. So help us make those deep, deep connections. Today, the United States calls Russia and China existential threats, that they are the big new enemies of the United States. And in order to deal with them, they say we, the Pentagon, I shouldn't use that word we, they say they need even more money than they already have. Well, you know, they're spending $1 trillion a year on the Pentagon now, but they say they need even more in order to pull off this surrounding of Russia and China that is going on today. I want to talk a bit about that. We hear a lot of demonization of Russia and China in the Western media, the same media that told us in 2003 that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. George W. Bush launched the shock and awe invasion of Iraq in 2003. He attacked Afghanistan after 9/11 in 2001. And all of that was promoted by the mainstream media. They lied to us repeatedly. And so what makes us think today, as the United States and its NATO allies and the media in all those countries, the Western media, demonize Russia and China and tell us all these nefarious stories about both those countries? What makes us think that they're telling us the truth when we know they have a track record of long track record of lying in order to create enemies, in order to create fear, in order to justify US massive expansion? Let's take Russia to start with. Russia has the largest land border with the Arctic Ocean. Take a good look at a map and see just how huge it is. the Rand Corporation in California, the place where Daniel Ellsberg was working when he made copies, snuck the Pentagon Papers out of the Rand Corporation where he was working and helping write the secret history of the US war in Vietnam. He snuck it out and made copies and got it to the New York Times and other newspapers. The Rand Corporation today says that the US must balkanize Russia, must break it up into smaller countries so that the oil corporations will have easier access to get at the Arctic Sea as the Arctic ice melts because of climate crisis. So this is why I would submit that Russia is being demonized so much today, because they sit on a ton of resources. Their country borders the Arctic Ocean, and the corporations want to go drill, baby, drill up there. And so today the United States is encircling Russia with so-called missile defense systems, a part of this whole Star Wars program. Missile defense is really misnamed. It's a shield. It's a shield that would be used after a US first strike attack is launched against Russia and or China. In fact, at the US Space Command for many years now, they've been annually wargaming this first strike attack on Russia and China. They call it the red team versus the blue team in a computer war game. And in this, the United States launches a preemptive attack, tries to take out as many of Russian and Chinese nuclear weapons as possible, land-based, sea-based, and air-based, in this massive first strike attack. But inevitably, they don't get all of them. And so Russia and China would be able to fire a retaliatory strike, something that they say they would do if they were ever attacked. You probably know that Russia and China have both long ago renounced first use, saying they would never launch a preemptive strike. The United States refuses to do so to this day. So anyway, missile defense, its job then is to pick off the retaliatory strikes that are fired after a US first strike attack. Missile defense that has many different varieties of missile defense systems, some that work better than others. Some don't work so well at all, others work much better. The one that works best is the one that is currently on board Navy Aegis destroyers that are made here in Bath, Maine, where I live, 2 blocks from my house at Bath Iron Works. These destroyers are outfitted with missile defense interceptor missiles called the SM-3, Standard Missile 3, and their job, again, is to be fired and take out retaliatory strikes after a US first strike attack. Their job is to be the shield to give the US a quote-unquote successful first strike attack. So these warships are now being used to encircle both Russia and China today. How is Russia and China to respond? Well, they've been saying for many, many years now, as the US began this encirclement with missile defense during the George W. Bush administration, after he walked away from the ABM treaty, the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty, that outlawed these kind of systems. Because at the time the ABM treaty was created between the former Soviet Union and the US, both sides realized that if you gave either country an advantage that they could strike first, that would be very destabilizing. So the ABM treaty banned this idea of a shield. And so we had this so-called rough equivalence between the two countries, or the MAD, mutual assured destruction. But then the missile defense shield then gives the United States this theoretical advantage. So in addition to the warships with missile defense systems on board, on these Navy Aegis destroyers, the United States is now taking this system on board these ships because it is their most successful missile defense testing program. And they're now creating what they call Aegis ashore. They're putting these same Aegis interceptor missiles with these same launch platforms that are on board the Navy ships. They're putting them on land. They've put some on the island of Kauai, and Hawaii, but they've put them in Romania and in Poland. Can you imagine that? Very, very near the Russian border. Kind of a Cuban Missile Crisis in reverse, if you will. And guess what? In addition to these Aegis Ashore launch platforms now on the land in Romania and Poland that would be able to fire these missile defense interceptor missiles, the SHIELD, these same platforms can also fire first strike attack, Tomahawk cruise missiles, nuclear capable cruise missiles. They can be fired not only from the Navy Aegis destroyer warships, but also from these Aegis Ashore platforms now in Romania and Poland. And they will be able to reach Moscow in 10 minutes time. How is Russia to respond to that? What are they to do? 10 minutes. Nuclear capable cruise missiles that are able to fly below radar detection. Russia has no option other than to put their missiles on launch on warning status. In addition, the United States is also encircling China with these same missile defense capabilities, moving them into Guam, Okinawa, on the mainland of China, South Korea. And in all these, and of course, these Aegis destroyers with these interceptor missiles are bumping up along the coast of China as well. So how is China to respond as well? And so this is why we see essentially that nuclear disarmament negotiations are deadlocked between the United States and Russia and China for the last 10 years or so. And it's largely because the United States has been withdrawing from treaties like the ABM Treaty and other treaties, the Iran nuclear deal, for example. But then in addition, the United States is encircling both Russia and China with these shields in order to have the advantage of being able to even dream of launching a first strike attack against those two countries. And so we in the peace movement, and especially in the disarmament movement, must begin to really understand that the missile defense program is a key obstacle that prevents any kind of real disarmament from taking place. And so we've got to really begin to address it more. Sadly, most groups that are working on nuclear disarmament, which of course is important, and it's a good thing, we have to work on that. You're not talking about these kind of issues like the missile defense deployments that the United States is doing around the world that are inhibiting Russia and China from being able to agree to any kind of negotiations. And so what we're seeing is both Russia and China are developing hypersonic weapons now that would be able to fly around missile defense, would be able to skirt around it. It kind of reminds me of the Maginot Line that the French put up before the start of World War II. When Hitler was rising into power, the French feared that the Germans were going to attack them. So they created this Maginot Line that was sort of like a graveyard, where the idea was that it would stop tanks from invading them. But Hitler was able to get around it very easily. And so Russia and China today are developing technologies to circumvent missile defense, to get around it, to be able to overwhelm it. And so this only leads to new arms races. So we've got to begin to really call upon the real, as far as I'm concerned, the destabilizer, the number one destabilizer in this whole arms race, which is the United States. I also want to talk about the collapse of the U.S. military empire. I see the U.S. really falling apart. Here in Maine, our state is in dire shape. The roads and bridges are falling apart like crazy. Schools are falling apart. Hospitals are closing. It's like this in many places around the country as our communities become addicted to military production, military spending. That 60% of every discretionary tax dollar goes for Pentagon spending, and there's no money for anything else anymore. And so we literally are a collapsing nation, both morally, spiritually, and physically. And so what we see then is the United States recognizing that Russia and China and Iran and Venezuela and many other countries around the world are now calling for a multipolar world, a world where there isn't just one ruler, one dominant power, that people want to work together. They want to solve problems. They want to deal with climate change. And the United States still has this idea that we're the exceptional nation, we're the king of the hill, we're the bully on the block, and we're going to be in charge no matter what. And it kind of reminds me of like a drunken gambler on a riverboat on the Mississippi River, you know, sitting at the card table, rolling the dice, you know, going for broke over and over again with a gun, you know, in his on his hip. This is the idea of the United States today, and it's just really leading to one calamity after the other. So we, the American people, have to really call for the end of this U.S. military empire, this arrogant empire of 800 bases around the world and endless war and endless conflict. This is really our challenge in our work today. Trump has announced the creation of this Space Force, mentioned it earlier, this idea of a new branch of the military, and their job would be to essentially control the highway on and off the planet Earth.
Bruce, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
The Space Force, one of the things when it comes to NDE, I'm sorry for throwing in a question in the middle of things, but I thought that you taught us, you showed us, some other people, activists in the 90s showed us that document, the Vision for 2020, which I thought that announced the Space Force. Was it not called Space Force then? Can you go into that a little bit? Haven't we known about this for 20 years? I mean, some of us.
Yeah, that was the U.S. Space Command.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
That was a division of the Air Force, and that document, Vision for 2020, called for the U.S. to control and dominate space and to deny other countries access to space. But what Trump has done with the Space Force is made the Space Force a separate military command. Like you have the Air Force, you have the Army, you have the Navy, you have the Marines, and now you're going to have the Space Force, their own separate branch of the military. So that's the difference. And it means they're going to get more money, they're going to get more attention, they're going to get more power, and they're going to get control of much of the war-making operation, again, because space directs and controls the whole thing. I want to get back to this point, though. We hear a lot about mining the planetary bodies anymore because people like Jeff Bezos that owns Amazon and Elon Musk that has his own rocket company. These entrepreneurs want to go out and mine the sky for precious minerals and resources. They want to colonize the planetary bodies. And after you, the taxpayer, have paid all the years of research and development to create the NASA program that can go out and, journey through space, now that they've created the technology with your tax dollars, they now want to privatize everything. And one of the jobs of the Space Force is going to be to control the military highway, essentially, the front gate on and off the planet Earth, so to allow these corporations to go out and mine the sky. And this is going to create a lot of conflict with other countries here on the planet. India, China, Russia, many other countries that want to also go out into space, but they're going to have to essentially pass through the front gate controlled by the Space Force. At least this is the vision of the Space Force today. When you really listen to them, this is what they're talking. They're using the old language of, we're just protecting the shipping lanes like the Navy does today on the Earth. We're protecting free navigation of the heavens and all this kind of stuff. It's the kind of language that we're used to hearing from the Pentagon. but this is the new agenda in the coming period. And again, this is where they come up with that notion that Star Wars will be the largest industrial project in the history of the planet Earth, because this will require massive expenditures, more rockets, more launches, more launch pads. We're seeing an explosion across the country today of communities that are being asked to allow the construction of launch facilities, spaceports in their state, in their communities, like the one in Kodiak Island, Alaska, where they were promised that it was going to be a civilian launch place, but the only thing they've ever launched there over many years now, since it was established, are Star Wars tests. So because of this idea that they want to put so much stuff up there, they want to occupy space, they want to fill up the remaining parking lots in the orbits around the Earth with US satellites and NATO ally satellites, they're rushing to do all of this before other countries can do it. And so that's why we're seeing so many spaceports being built and being proposed across the country. So keep your eye on that as well. There's a lot going on here, and it's not good news. It's a lot of money involved, obviously. I urge you to go to our website, spaceforpeace.org, spaceforpeace.org, and also check out my blog, which is called Organizing Notes, where I report kind of daily on my life as an activist, on the issues that I work on, and try to share what I've learned over all these years with other people as they're just getting into the movement or whatever. So let me just end by saying today is the first day of our annual Keep Space for Peace Week. Normally we would be having local protests at key facilities in the United States and around the world, calling for the end to this idea of militarizing and weaponizing space. But because like you at NDE and you're having to find more creative ways under this epidemic, we're having to do the same with our Keep Space for Peace Week. So it's an honor to be with you on the first day of our Space Week. Thank you for having me, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you so much, Bruce. It was great to have you with us here. And again, there's Bruce's website. I didn't get a chance to type up. What's the blog? If you could say that, if your mic is still on, Bruce.
Organizing Notes. It has a long URL. I don't even want to try to remember what it is, but if you just search my name and Organizing Notes, you'll find it.
Great. Thanks again, Bruce. I'm so glad that we got to connect together for this first day of Keep Space for Peace Week. And one final question, is there anything else you can say about, is there other events you know of that are virtual or otherwise during the next week that that would be okay to talk about?
Yeah, we're doing 2 Zoom webinars ourselves, one on the 8th of October, and we're going to have representatives from our organization from Australia, from England, from Korea, from the US, and from India on that particular webinar. And we'll be talking about all these issues. And these activists are all people that are organizing in their communities where there are major US space warfare bases built. And so they're going to talk about what role those places play. And then on the 15th of October, we're doing a similar thing again. And both of those, the information on those are at our website at spaceforpeace.org. So if anybody's interested in learning more about all this and following along with those 2 webinars, you can go to spaceforpeace.org and see the information there.
Thanks again, Bruce. And
good luck to you
Vera,
all.
Yeah, blessed be.
Nice songs, Vera. I enjoyed them. Keep it up.
Thank you so much, Bruce, and thank you for relaying the information.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you later. Vera, thanks earlier for being with us. For all week long, you're going to be with us here in Nevada on the Sacred Peace Walk, Code Green. And thanks earlier, Vera. For those of you that are just tuning in, Vera was able to play a couple songs earlier. And I think these other songs are going to be 2 different songs from earlier, because you've got a large repertoire. And if you could give yourself just another quick intro like you did last time, just in case somebody tuned in late.
All right, yeah. My name is Vera for Love, and if you enjoyed this music, you can find my music. It's veraforlove.com or wherever you listen to music. But I started writing peace music or protest music back in 2014 when I went on my first Sacred Peace Walk. So this is my 6th Sacred Peace Walk, and 2 of the songs I shared before now, I actually wrote when I was hanging out with my peace family. And it just, I really feel like this community, our community, really encourages me to, 1, love myself more, take care of myself more so that I can be better for those who I come in contact with. And so, like I said earlier, I sang a song called You Are Love. And I feel like if we remember that we are love, it gives us a bigger opportunity to love ourselves and not forget about others. Because if we are loving ourselves, there's no reason why we would want to hurt anyone else. And again, dropping bombs on individuals is not normal. Shooting people with guns is not normal. It's something that has become a norm, but I'm hoping that this is something we can grow out of as a people, as human beings. So I'm very grateful for Nevada Desert Experience and the Sacred Peace Walk to have me share my music and just to continue to spread awareness about growing in love and supporting each other. You know, we don't, yeah, it's kind of sad. So I'm going to share 2 more songs. This song is called High. Mathematics and some values, you've got to add it up. Multiply your highs, subtract your lows. When you're reaching from the dust to the sun, descend and know your roots, know your truth. You are worthy, King of kings and Queen of queens. You are worthy. Your energy That song was called High. And this last song is called Blindfolded. It's about enjoying the journey and taking chances. Thank you again, Nevada Desert Experience, Sacred Peace Walk. Thank you, Marcus Pegasus, for inviting me to play my music. I love you all. This is Blindfolded. You hold my hand and I feel uncovered. You say the right words at the right time. You built the fire and you burnt your hands. You say nothing like taking chances. We're gonna jump right into the deep end. Let's go swimming where our feet won't touch the ground. Let's climb a mountain where we reach the top and lose our breaths. Yeah, let's take a journey where we don't know where we're going. We're on the edge, letting go. On the edge, still holding on. Blindfolded. Blindfolded. We're blindfolded. Blindfolded. With so much to uncover, got everything to lose, got a jar full of pennies, a head filled with dreams, and our hearts are feelings. Let's take a journey where we don't know where we're going. We're on the edge, letting go. On the edge, still holding on. Blindfolded. Blindfolded. We're blindfolded. Blindfolded. You built the fire and you burnt your hands. You say nothing like taking chances. We're gonna jump right into the deep end. Let's go swimming where our feet won't touch the ground. Let's climb a mountain where we reach the top and lose our breaths. Yeah, let's take a journey where we don't know where we're going. We're on the edge, letting go. On the edge, still holding on. Blindfolded. Blindfolded. We're blindfolded. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vera.
I love you, Marcus Pegasus. Thank you so much for having me. I will see you on the highway.
Yes, yes. And we invite everybody to tune in, to keep staying tuned to our online virtual event. And we hope that people can meet Vera in person after the pandemic or with the mask on during the pandemic.
Gotta wear the mask.
Do you have any shows coming up, like COVID safe shows or anything like that that you could mention in Vegas or elsewhere?
Right now, I have no shows. I have had some virtual shows, but if I do have any, I will let you know, and you can let your friends know, and we can all enjoy.
And you've been such a great part of Nevada Desert Experience. We love having you as part of our crew, and we will, yes, many hearts. We will be able to promote your stuff through all of our channels. People can keep using the hashtag SPWCG, that stands for Sacred Peace Walk Code Green, and even more so the hashtag Nevada Desert Expressions, which is more about the art and music, like Vera's music, the poetry, the prayers that people put together, expressing the hopes for a world without nuclear weapons and drone warfare. That's hashtag Nevada Desert Expressions. So you'll see some of Vera's stuff tagged with that in the future. You'll see our current stuff tagged with that now. So thanks again, Vera.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the work you do and the energy that you give. I just thank you so much. I'm so happy to know you.
Blessed be.
All right, peace.
Yes, and then people can keep tuning in at 7 p.m. That's tomorrow night, the 4th of October, and the 5th of October, and the 6th of October, and the 7th of October, and the 8th of October. Again, this is Marcus Pegasus for Nevada Desert Experience, and we are having our Sacred Peace Walk Code Green. Stay tuned to this YouTube channel. I mean, come back to this YouTube channel. We're going off the air now, but come on back when we're doing our next broadcast. And cable and netcasts. You can also check out nevadadesertexperience.org. And if you want to send any of your art, prayers, poetry, etc., about peace and justice in this world, especially the end of nuclear weapons and the end of drone warfare, you can send us a copy of that we can put together in a publishing thing that we're doing, a zine or an online thing. It's the website is, the email is creative@nevadadesertexperience.org. Again, that's creative@nevadadesertexperience.org. And once again, this is Marcus Pegasus wishing you all a blessed and peaceful week. Keep working for justice, keep working for peace, keep taking care of each other and taking care of yourselves. We pray that all goes well and that the US gets rid of, and the whole planet gets rid of the nuclear weapons ASAP.